Okay, looks like we've got a few more people joining us. In the interest of time, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Jessie Wachter. I'm a Global Programs Advisor with Rustic Pathways. I've been with Rustic for about 10 years now, run trips in about 10 different countries. So I now work with families. I was formerly the director of our Tanzania programs. Those programs are always near to my heart, but I now work with families to help them find the right fit program and students as well. So if you have any questions throughout, please do utilize the Q&A section at the bottom. Feel free to type in your questions as we go. I do have a colleague of mine, Emily, behind the scenes. She's going to be answering some of those questions in line if they are specifically about one program. If you have questions about how many students are signed up for a specific program, what's the boy to girl ratio, that kind of thing, we won't be able to get to those on this webinar. We are always happy to answer those questions anytime during the business day, but Emily may be able to answer some of those questions as well. So any and all questions, put in the question and answer section. If you have questions for our panelists, also put those in there and we will get to those live. During this webinar, we are going to talk a little bit about Rustic Pathways. If you're brand new to our company and our programs, I will mention our spring break promo that we have just running for another couple of days. We have the alumni Q&A that we are going to kind of feature our amazing alumni here. And then I'll go into a little bit about how to enroll, just to run through that process. And then we'll have some more time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. So at Rustic Pathways, we really do see ourselves as the intersection between education, travel, and philanthropy. So what that means is we see this as a really poignant time in a student's life. We do have programs for middle school, high school, and college. We have about 100 different programs to choose from, mostly high school programs from ages 14 to 18. And about 75 to 80% of our programming does involve some sort of service element to it. So that's a really important part of our programming, the relationships that we have in countries all around the world. As a company, we've been around for about 36 years now, going on 37. And like I said, we're about 20 different countries around the world. So we offer a variety of different opportunities for students based on their interests and kind of what they would like to pursue, and hopefully sort of broaden their horizons and help them as they move forward into making bigger decisions about their life and where they'd like to go and who they'd like to be. I mentioned that we have a spring break promotion right now that is 10% off any spring break program by January, excuse me, 27th. So as long as you enroll, you can use this referral code on the application, Spring Break 19, right there on your screen. Feel free to take a screenshot there and you can get 10% off of any spring break program that we have running this year. And then I'd like to introduce our amazing panel tonight. We have three amazing alumni. They've been all over the world, and we're going to go ahead and start with Grace.
Hi.
Grace, go ahead and introduce yourself. Where are you and where have you traveled with us?
Okay, so I'm Grace Leckie. I live in South Burlington, Vermont, and this past summer I did the Sacred Valley Service Program in Peru.
Awesome, thanks. And Gabe.
Hi, I'm Gabe. I'm from Havertown. It's like a 10-minute ride from Philly. I went to the Dominican last year on a marine life program, and 2 years ago I had the opportunity to go to Fiji on the Sunset and Service trip.
And it looks like you are signed up for a program this year. Where are you going this year?
Yeah, I think I'm going back to the Dominican to do a similar project, not the same project, but a very similar project.
Okay, awesome. I will talk to you in a minute about why you chose to go back, but I'd love to get Cheska to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Cheska. I'm from Naples, Florida. This past year, I did summer camp leadership in Costa Rica. And then 2 years ago, I also did sun, sand, and service in Fiji.
Cool. And you were also traveling again this summer?
I am traveling again this summer. I'm doing the rice fields and smiling children in Thailand.
Awesome. Cool. We'll start with Gabe. Would you mind talking a little bit about your programs, kind of how you chose where you wanted to travel, and then also mention, it looks like you're going back to DR, so why would you go back?
So the reason I chose my Fiji trip in the first place was, one, because I needed service. My parents would only send me places or would help me pay for places if they had service hours, and a big service aspect to it. And Fiji had a big service aspect to it. But when I got there, I thought, oh, it's just going to be all about service. But when I actually got there, it was more about learning about the culture and the family and getting involved while also doing service. which is really cool. And then this year in the Dominican, I had a very similar experience. I got to interact more with the locals there, and that made me want to go back because the locals there gave off a really great energy, a really great vibe about them.
Cool. And do you know the differences between the two programs that you did last year and this year, or will be
Yeah,
doing this year?
so this year last year I did a program in like southeastern Dominican with Marine service. This upcoming year, if I stick with this program, I'm going to be doing service like on the border between the Dominican and Haiti, working on like water access, electricity to underprivileged people.
Cool. And I think that's something awesome to note that we do have a variety of different service opportunities. So whereas one year you may have an interest in marine biology or environmental conservation. And then it sounds like, to sort of paraphrase what you said, you had been interested, or you found a link with the people there and you wanted to go back and work more directly with the people. So that's something really fun about the programs. It kind of gives you the chance to experiment a little bit and try out different things and see where your interests lie. Grace, how did you choose Peru?
So I actually paid for my whole trip, and so obviously that went into it a little bit, but I was looking through all the trips and I wanted to find somewhere that I couldn't really get to on my own or with my parents. I wanted an experience that was like unique to Rustic, so I chose Peru because of the homestay and because of all the work we got to do in the villages, and also the community service aspect of it was really great because we dug trenches to provide like lay pipes to provide water to the villages that we actually stayed in. So it was really cool when I was looking at the trip to know that my service would go right back to where we were staying.
Was it hard?
Yes.
Yeah, it was hard, but it paid off.
Rewarding.
Good. Can you talk a little bit more about the homestay element? I know a lot of students are interested but wary of homestays.
Yeah, so my whole group actually was pretty nervous about it, but we got there. It was like our third day in Peru, and they paired us up with somebody in our group. There were 20 of us, and we went to the houses, and the people there were so amazing. They welcomed our homes to us. They let us use all of their facilities, even though they didn't have that much themselves, which was really, really nice of them. And then every night we would go to this restaurant in town and all have dinner together. And we would like explore the town together. And our mamas, they were like these cute little Peruvian women, and they greeted us in these traditional outfits. It was just really amazing, and everybody there was so nice and so welcoming and made us feel like we really belonged in the village.
Awesome. So, and the homestay isn't the whole part of the program, right? It's a short part.
No, it was 3 nights right in the beginning of the program, and then a week later we do 3 or 4 nights camping at about 13,000 feet, but it wasn't really a homestay. We were just camping in a village in tents, but
Still got the community feel.
yeah.
Awesome. And Cheska, can you tell us a bit more the programs you've done?
Yes. So the first time I traveled with Rustic, I chose Fiji. Mainly so same as Grace, I paid for my whole trip myself through fundraising efforts. And so when choosing a program, I wanted to go somewhere as far away as home as I could get. But also, so I applied for a scholarship my first year, and I was lucky enough to be offered half off of my trip price. And within that, I got to choose from a list of places that I wanted to go. And originally, I wanted to go to Thailand, but that wasn't an option for me. So I chose Fiji. And what I loved about it was, again, it was like a really long, which is something that I was looking for. And on top of that, I was also looking for something that was heavily, like a lot of service hours. So I chose the program. And when I went, I had the same kind of like feeling. I was like, oh, this is going to be all service. But the same thing as Gabe said, I was totally immersed in the culture, and I felt like that was really what the trip was about. And every time I think of Rustic Pathways, I always think of like, that's a cultural immersion experience. So then when choosing my trip for the last summer, again, I wanted to do something that had a lot of service hours. So I chose summer camp leadership in Costa Rica. And it was it was basically the exact same but different experience because I was traveling with Rustic. So I was completely immersed in the culture. I was making a ton of friends, getting to know the locals, which was my favorite part about the whole trip. So that's mainly why I chose to travel with Rustic again.
Either Gabe or Cheska, can you talk a little bit about the variety of projects on Sun Sand and International Service? Because that program isn't focused on one particular type. You kind of get a variety of experiences.
Yeah. There was I remember this was 2 years ago, but what I remember was like every day we would go to our there's like a big whiteboard in the middle of our, I don't necessarily know what to call it, but where we stayed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we were able to, like, every day we had different teams, we had team names, and each team was assigned to two different projects each day. You'd go, remember, like, you could go to the Sigatoka sand dunes and like build like teepees to prevent the sand from blowing. And then in the afternoon, you'd be in the local school painting walls and like rebuilding the school that was there, so that was destroyed by a hurricane or a typhoon recently. Like, you could go and help out with that. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, do you have anything to add, Cheska?
Yeah. I completely agree. Like the way that they balanced, specifically like in Fiji, the way that the balance was between like service and also like just like having fun and also doing that because you're like in a new country and experience things. I thought that there was a great balance, and the same thing, like there was a whiteboard, we'd go every day, we'd see what was happening, and then we'd do like 2 service projects a day, but in between we would do something that wasn't service related and it was more cultural.
And Grace talked a little bit about what she was kind of nervous about with the homestay before she actually had the experience. Was there something that you, Cheska, you were most nervous about starting your trip with Rustic Pathways?
I was probably most nervous about meeting people and making friends, and also the language barrier, because in Fiji, the language barrier, like I couldn't even comprehend how different their language is in comparison to ours. But what Rustic Pathways does an amazing job at is sending you the country packet that gives you typical phrases and words in their language. So in Fiji, it was Fijian. So Rustic Pathways does a great job at explaining like the country and what like typical foods and also just like the way of living and also the language, which personally for me, I know a lot of people in my group didn't, but I studied the language a lot. So when I got to Fiji, I was able to have conversations, which is something I was super nervous about, that I wasn't going to be able to connect culturally. Because I wasn't going to have the same language as them. But honestly, even the kids who didn't have like a brief understanding of the language still really connected. So it was something I was nervous about, but quickly got over.
Cool. I love that you did your research. That's also like a huge pro tip for any students that are tuning in tonight. Read through that booklet, do some online research, and those like little basic phrases can go so far in your travels. Gabe, was there something that you were really nervous about before you headed off on your trip?
Personally, because I live in Philadelphia, traveling 18 hours to Fiji was one of my fears. Just not that I couldn't navigate it, but that something would get lost along the way. I'd be responsible for it. But like when I was traveling, Rustic had a lot of things set in place. Like they get sent like travel labels and all this stuff that guided you through each process and helped you. Like I had a flight leader lead me from LA to Fiji, then from Fiji to LA. So I thought that was really cool and it brought my nerves down a lot.
Great. Did you all travel alone or did you travel with a friend?
I traveled alone.
Gabe traveled alone. Grace?
I traveled alone too, but I actually found somebody on Rustic's Instagram who was going beforehand, so we like talked and got to know each other a little bit.
Nice. What about you, Cheska?
I traveled alone too.
Would one of you like to talk about that experience? Was that something you're kind of worried about, and would you recommend that for other travelers?
I can talk about it. So I was actually super nervous about traveling alone and about making friends. That was like also what I was really nervous about, because my trip was completely full, 20 of us. But I found that the people who traveled with somebody tended to only stick with those people. And it was really great for me to not know anybody and to be able to like kind of meet different people and be able to interact with the different people in my group in like a fresh way without knowing them beforehand. So we're all like super close now. We have a group chat. We talk all the time. So it's really great.
Awesome. I see a lot of nodding of heads. It's a question that we get all the time. I think we have a lot of students that think they're going to be the only ones that are traveling on their own, when actually more students than travel with friends travel on their own. So I love to see that y'all agree with that. Any other additions to that? Okay, Jessica. Grace, what was the best part of your trip in Peru?
Oh gosh. Well, obviously Machu Picchu, first of all. It was just really cool. Just also, in my opinion, the people were so amazing. Everybody there is so, so nice and so kind, and the children are adorable. And one of my favorite things that happened was we were staying at a hotel, and I like love babies, and the hotel owner just handed me his baby, and I got so happy I almost started crying, and he like took pictures. I think it was because I'm blonde. That's what my trip leader told me. But it was just really exciting. And also the natural landscape in Peru is like nothing you'll ever see. It's amazing. So that was also a really cool part. Pictures can't do it justice at all, but I tried.
What about you, Gabe? What was, choose your favorite part of either program.
So my favorite part of my Dominican program was really honestly the people, because the people were so open and so like they welcomed everybody with open arms. Like in a little town we stayed in Bahibe, like we went to this local restaurant and this lady who owned it, super local food, super good food, just welcomed everybody with open arms and like was willing to hug anyone that needed a hug. It was really cool. And like our trip leader literally translated that for us. It was really cool. I thought that was my favorite part.
I love that. Did you pick up some Spanish while you were there, or more appropriately Dominican Spanish?
No, I wish I had though. There was a good amount of people that had studied Spanish in my group though before I went.
But not necessary.
No, it wasn't, because everybody either had all the trip leaders had a good understanding of it or spoke Spanish.
Okay, cool. Maybe you'll pick up a little bit before your trip this summer.
Yeah, I hope so.
Nice. What about you, Cheska?
My favorite part about my recent trip, the summer camp leadership in Costa Rica, I think was the kids at the camp genuinely were hands down the best part. I remember every day, they'd come to camp, they'd be so excited to see us. They'd come give us hugs, they would bring us gifts. One kid came up to me on one of the last days of camp, and I personally, my mom is a fluent Spanish speaker, so growing up it was one of my second languages, so I would speak it a lot. I'm not as fluent as I used to be, but I can pick up on a lot of things, especially kid Spanish is very broken. So the kid talked to me, and he's I want to take you home with me and feed you platanos and rice and beans all day. And that just made my heart so warm. And I remember the last day camp, when all the kids had to get on the bus again, I started breaking down crying, and my whole group, even the guys, were in full on sobbing tears, and it made me so sad. But also it was just, that's when I knew that experience was one that I will carry for the rest of my life, because the connection I made with those kids was unreal.
That's awesome. And yours is kind of a unique program, because rather than just being a summer program for our students, you're actually running a summer camp for local students, right?
Yes, exactly. So the kids are chosen from their local schools in the area, La Fortuna, and they're brought every day. And also the seasons are different, so it wasn't really summer for them. I think it was they were still in school, so
they have a little bit more of a year-round system there. Awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about how the camp is run and what goes on there?
How the camp is run?
Mm-hmm. Yep. What was your role in the summer camp?
So basically, before the summer camp starts, we're taken to a little hikers, I feel like I would call it. And we stayed there, and we leaderships planned and what we wanted it to look like. And it was super student led. I felt like our leaders were amazing by letting that happen. So how the camp looked is we would like plan out every day and the activities, and then on the last day is like the field day, so we would plan that throughout the week, going on how every activity would go. So like it would start off by every morning, like they'd get like breakfast, and then we would do like a group activity all together. And then the kids would split up into 3 groups of different colors. So it was red, yellow, and blue for my specific camp. And they'd be split up for the whole day. And then we'd have a community building activity at the end of the day for 30 minutes. And then they'd get a snack and they'd get back on the bus and go home. So every day was pretty much the same for a week, other than the last day where it was more just like the whole community coming together. But that's what the camp looked like.
Cool. What I loved hearing is that all 3 of you did some sort of fundraising for your program, which I have always said I think is a really important thing to take on, you know, whether or not you need to. I think it allows you to be a little more personally invested. It's your money on the line. You earned your way there. I think that's incredible to hear that all 3 of you did that. I would love to hear from each of you, maybe starting with Grace, just about that process. How did you decide how to fundraise, and what that was like for you?
Okay, so I like begged my parents to go. Sorry, I'm sick, by the way, but
Yeah.
I begged my parents to go, and they were like, you can only go if you pay for it. So I said, okay, I have a job. I work at a Mexican restaurant. So I picked up a lot of extra shifts. And then I made a GoFundMe page, and I put it on my Facebook page, and relatives, friends donated to it, and it was really great. And I linked to the Rustic Pathways page to it so they could see exactly what I was going to be doing, and they could look at pictures. And then I just kind of did babysitting, did odd jobs, desperately saved up, and sometimes the payment would come through and I'd have like 50 cents left in my bank account. So it was like barely making it, but I did, and I was so happy because it made it more personal for me, to know that like I did this and that this was because of me, and that I was like helping people off of my own time and money. So that was really nice.
Awesome. Gabe?
So what I did, well, I helped with like Fiji one, and what I did, I back then I worked as a lifeguard, but I also at the time there was like a summer soccer league going on, so I helped ref the summer soccer league, and I also did a similar thing. I put a thing on Facebook said like, help me, like I can't physically pay for this all by myself. My parents, I'm glad that I'm really lucky, but they also helped me with half of it. So I only had to raise the other half.
Still.
But it took me like 5 months, 6 months to raise all that money, and it took me a very long time. But it was really worth it for me to see to be able to go and see what my money was going towards, and see like how it was helping, and how I could help them too, which was really cool.
Awesome. Jessica?
So basically I didn't have a job at the time, and so I was desperate for money in a way that I could pay for this trip, because it was the one thing I wanted to do. Like I had always dreamed about going to Fiji and just traveling in general. And so I tried the GoFundMe page, and actually it was a total flop for me. I shared it on my Facebook and like all my social medias, and no one would donate money other than my grandma. God bless her soul. She's the best. But so I didn't really know what to do. And then I go to a super small high school. And I have a really good relationship with the head of our school. So I talked to him, and I was able to actually have a bake sale every week at my school. I sold like these slutty brownies, they're called. They're like cookie dough, Oreos, and brownies. I sold them every week on a Tuesday at school, and I ended up raising over $1,000 on just doing that alone.
Wow.
And then eventually, yeah, it was really crazy. I would, on top of all my schoolwork, playing sports and all that, I would come home and bake brownies and sell them, like special ordered and all that. So I did that, and then also like halfway through my fundraising efforts, I got a job. And so I was working almost every day after school and taking double shifts on weekends just to pay for my whole trip. And the same as Grace, I literally would have no money when I had to pay. And it took a lot of willpower. But in the end, when I got to Fiji, that's when it all paid off in the end. I got there and I was interacting with kids, and it was just such like a life-changing experience to be able to see that and see how my hard work paid off for this.
That's awesome. High fives all around. Can you still eat brownies, or are you totally sick of them by now?
Oh, I can still eat my brownies. They're pretty bomb.
They must be if they made that much money.
Yeah.
I don't see any questions and answers coming in, so I'm going to give this chance right now for everybody joining us to type in your questions. In the meantime, I'm going to just get out of our screen here for a moment, hop over to the Rustic Pathways website, and I want to show a couple resources that we have. Speaking of fundraising, if you click into the menu in the top right corner, go into the How It Works section, and then go down to scholarships. Click here, you'll have both scholarship information, but also some really useful information if you plan to fundraise. So right here, we have a fundraising guide that has tons of information and tons of useful tips and tricks for students who are planning to fundraise. And you can also create your own fundraising page if you click here, similar to GoFundMe, but it gives you lots of information about our programs. So those are some really awesome resources. And Boone Supply, everything that 50% of the profits that of the products that are purchased on Boone Supply go towards our foundation. So that's also something to keep in mind as you do birthday shopping throughout the year. I know we kind of miss the holidays. And then we have our scholarship information, our service scholarship, our critical issue scholarship, which Grace has applied for and is anxiously awaiting word. Gap year, and then our teacher appreciation program for anybody who works within the education field. You don't necessarily have to be a teacher, but administration, what have you, you can apply for our teacher appreciation program. So those are good resources to know about. And then just wanted to quickly touch base on the enroll page. It's pretty straightforward. If you click the enroll button there, gives you some basic information, and then the application link is there. It's a pretty straightforward application. It's maybe 6 pages, but it's, a page for the student's information, a page for family information, your program selection and payment selection. So it goes pretty quickly. But if you do have any questions about the process, you're welcome to give us a call at any time. We have staff on the phone. Our Global Program Advisor team is usually on 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday, and then also available sometimes on Sundays as well. We've got one of our staff is located in New Zealand, so that's her Monday. So we are pretty available. You can also contact us at any time. You can schedule a call with us as well. You have access to our calendar, so there's lots of ways to reach us if you do have any questions. And it looks like we do have a few questions coming in. So that was our how to enroll. And now I've got some time for questions. So now's your time. When you were raising money, did you raise for the trip itself, or did you also raise for airfare? That's a great question. Airfare can be expensive. One quick note before we speak to our panelists, if you are fundraising and you're looking for a more affordable program, actually, let me show you real quick here. One way to look on our website, if you search here for 2,500, we actually have an awesome blog post about 20 programs under the cost of $2,500 for the program. That's not including airfare, but that's a great place to look for more affordable options. Airfare, obviously, the closer to the United States, if you're coming from the US. If you're coming from outside the US, then you're welcome to book your own travel. We'll give you all that information to make that a smooth transition. But if you are coming from the US,
Hi, everyone. I think we may have lost Jessie. If you can hear me, I can definitely continue on with the Q&A portion of this webinar. So one of the things that had just come in as a question were, when you're raising money, did you raise for the trip itself or just for the airfare? And Cheska, if you want to answer that one, or Grace or Gabe as well. I think all of you might have different answers to this question, but
yeah, so I initially was just starting to raise money for the program fee itself, and then as the trip got closer, I started to focus more on how much the airfare would be. And luckily, when you are awarded a scholarship, I believe that you get some of the money of your airfare taken down, so there's a bit of a discounted rate. And as well, my parents did help me pay all at once for the airfare to Rustic Pathways, and then I fundraised even after my trip to pay them.
Awesome. And Grace and Gabe, sort of similar for you guys or different?
So for me, I was there actually over my birthday. So I fundraised for everything except for the flight to and back from Miami, which is where we left from. And my parents actually got that for me for a birthday present. But I fundraised, I put on my GoFundMe page the whole price just so people would know how much I was trying to raise and see how much they could contribute and what that would do for the whole total.
Awesome. Anything you want to add there, Gabe, or just jump to the next one?
My parents helped me with the airfare. That we put it in as half of it, so they split it halfway down the middle. Like I paid half the airfare and half of the price. They paid half the airfare and half the price. So yes, but also kind of no.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys, for answering those ones. And you guys, any of you can jump in on this one. Next question is, what is something you wish you knew before you went on your trip?
For me, I wish I had known just how cold it was going to be. It was so cold that night. We all figured it out pretty fast and bought some alpaca sweaters at the market, which really saved our lives when we were camping. But I just wish that I had brought more layers personally for me.
Personally, in the Dominican, I wish I actually kind of wish the opposite, because they say on it bring like 3 pairs of pants. So I didn't bring more shorts because of that, but there wasn't. I mean, not to say that they didn't come in handy, but I wish I had brought more shorts because I had to do laundry, and it ended up being a process because I had to go out and wash it and then bring it back. But other than that, it was pretty fine.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way about like clothing wise. I feel like before I went to Costa Rica, I wish I knew more about what I actually was going to need, because I did follow the packing list and I knew kind of from going to Fiji that like it's not really exact, but I had the same issue where I would have to pay for laundry and like wash my things, which was kind of uncomfortable, but it was fine in the end. But just I wish I knew to bring more shorts and like hot weather stuff. Even though I am from a hotter climate, my stuff was constantly just getting wet from doing like camp stuff or rafting and stuff like that. So that's just something I wish I knew.
Awesome. All great points. And just want to point out to everyone, for almost all of our programs, we have the packing list on our website on each individual program webpage. So if you want to talk through a packing list, our global program advisors are available to do that with anyone at any time. And next question, and I can actually answer this question. It says, it's just asking about dietary restrictions and if we're able to accommodate those. So dietary restrictions are very, very common. We are absolutely very well versed in accommodating for vegetarians, vegans, gluten-free diets, whether that's a severe gluten allergy or just an intolerance. Doesn't eat certain types of meat due to, you know, any dietary restriction there. Also, peanut allergies, things like that. There are countries where it is easier for us to accommodate certain dietary requirements, and it's best to have a live conversation with particular students, just so we can make sure we can accommodate those individual student needs. So definitely invite anyone to reach out to us on those at any time. And the next one, this is a great one for you guys. What advice would you give someone who's thinking of taking a rustic trip but needs a little bit more convincing?
I can take this. So what I would tell them is pretty much saying, like, I made almost every single person I went with is now my friend. And I made that. There's also the fact that you're immersed in a completely different culture. You think like you can go like to like Florida, maybe experience something different, but you go to like these countries that have a completely different culture than you do, and you get to learn about it. And it sounds boring at first, but once you truly get immersed in it, it's completely different, and you love, like, I ended up loving both cultures like deeply.
Awesome, thanks for that. Another one for you guys. On your first rustic trip, was it easy to make friends?
I can take this one.
For me, oh yeah,
Sorry. I just thought it was really easy to make friends because everybody's really nice, and everybody was also nervous about making friends, so everybody was super open to it as well.
Fantastic. And I think we just have a couple more questions coming in. One's about spending money. I can take this one. Different trips have different amounts of spending money that are advised based off of the additional add-on experiences. For example, Costa Rica programs, everything's included, and you would only need additional spending money for any souvenirs or additional snacks. But in terms of like Fiji, where we have skydiving or scuba diving or bungee jumping in Australia, things like that, those things are not included because not all students would want to do those things. So if you ever have questions about spending money, each individual program FAQ section will answer spending money and optional add-on activities. So you can always look that up at any time. And last one, I would say, if any of you guys want to answer this one, was anyone on your trip unhappy, and how did your staff members deal with this? And I would just generalize this more too. You know, were there any challenges maybe that were faced during your program, or anything at all like that that you want to mention?
For us, because of the altitude, a lot of us actually got sick, but not like really sick, just like little altitude sickness before we actually acclimatized to it. So it was kind of hard in the beginning to get our bodies used to it, and we were all a little grumpy. But once we like went places and looked at all the people in the nature, we like completely forgot about it, and everybody was fine, and it ended up being really great.
Fantastic. And the last question that we can answer during this, is it too late to start raising money or register for a program if you haven't started yet? So the deadline to enroll in any program is 8 days prior to the program departure date. So it's definitely not too late to register for a program. And if you want to start raising money and then enroll later on, that's totally fine. So you don't necessarily need to start raising money and enroll in a program at the exact same time. So probably the earlier the better, but definitely still early and lots of time for everyone. So I think that we might just end it there. Any final thoughts from our panelists at all?
I mean, one thing I wanted to add is that, like, I think I've said this about 3 or 4 times now, but I think all of the people I went with are all now my friends. Like, for example, today I actually coordinated with someone that I went to the Dominican with, and I'm actually going to see her in a few weeks, which is really cool.
Yeah, I have to add on to what Gabe said. The relationships that I've made through Rustic Pathways are my favorite. Like, all of them are my favorite people in the whole entire world. My friend from my previous trip in Costa Rica actually just came and visited me from New York for a few days, and then prior to that I visited New York and met up with like half the people from my trip. So I'm still super close. We talk on the group chat every day, so the relationships that I have with them are incredible for me personally.
Yeah, same thing as them pretty much. I was just nervous about going and making friends, and everybody's super close. We went through a lot together, so you know the friendships are real, and it's just really amazing. So if you're thinking about it, I would say go.
Awesome. I'm so glad that this is still going on. I'm so sorry I dropped out there frantically trying to get in, the age of the internet. Sorry, guys. I'd say what do I miss, but I'm not going to make you recount everything. Do we have any more questions coming in? I don't think so. And we're at 10 minutes over. We do still have quite a few people Can we replay this video? Yes. We will send an automatic email to everybody who attended and everybody who did not attend with a recording of this video. I will also have to watch the last 10 minutes of this, but yes, we will send a recording out, and it'll also be posted on our website. For that, the recording usually is sent out email within a couple of days, and then it takes about a week or so to get it up on the website. But you will be able to replay this. Any other last minute questions that we have? Emily, thank you for stepping in.
No worries.
As alumni for powering on without me. Without further ado, Emily, were there any last minute questions?
Nope, I think we got to all of it. So thanks
Okay.
everyone for tuning in.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for our alumni panel for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. If you have any of the questions that did not get answered or anything you think of later tonight, please give us a call. And once again, thank you and have a good night. Thanks, guys.